The fourth voyage is Columbus's fastest crossing. Driven westwards by the trade winds, it takes just 21 days for the fleet of the master mariner to traverse the Atlantic. Columbus, always alert to the elements, notices a strange change in the weather. He observes a calm in the air, abnormal currents, and unusual cloud formations. It's a sign of a deadly Caribbean threat. To Columbus, it can mean only one thing: a hurricane. He has already lived through a hurricane on his second voyage. He knows something of their immense destructive power. The name hurricane comes from the Taino Indians, who had to battle them every year. Realizing that the hurricane is veering north of Hispaniola, he navigates his ships in the opposite direction. He anchors them in a sheltered bay, which he hopes will give some protection from the full force of the hurricane. As night falls, the hurricane strikes. The raw power of the ocean overwhelms them, tearing each vessel from its anchorage and scattering them out to sea. Eventually, the terrifying storm passes. Columbus and his ships have survived. By sheer luck and brilliant seamanship, they are able to regroup in a cove prearranged by Columbus, their ships relatively unscathed. Columbus's great goal on the fourth voyage is to find the mainland of Asia, find what he thinks will be Japan and China and India. Seeking a way through, he sails down the Central American coast. He is the first European in history to map this territory. But the Indians of Chiriqui offer an important clue. They refer to an overland route to a different ocean, a journey which takes 9 days' march across the mountains. If Columbus takes this route, he will become the first European to reach the Pacific Ocean by traveling west. Standing virtually on the spot where the Panama Canal will be built 3.5 centuries later, Columbus refuses to take the path. He remains convinced that he can still find a sea route to Asia, and he thinks that his crews won't survive a dangerous expedition across unknown lands.
The east coast of Panama is probably one of the most humid places in Central America. You have places there with 300 days of rainfall. This is like really a swamp, a huge mangrove forest, and it's probably the worst place for a human to be.
The crews are fast losing any remaining respect for Columbus, all because of his stubborn intent to find the westward passage to the Orient. Columbus is also in great pain. The arthritis he suffered on his first voyage has returned to plague him again. The illness spreads all around his body and begins to affect his state of mind. To his crew's amazement, Columbus orders his ships to be turned around. After years of deep conviction, he finally decides to give up the very reason that brought him this far. He abandons the search for the westward passage. He sails along the coast to Veragua in what is now Panama. Indians have told him that it is awash with gold. Columbus's brother Bartolome immediately sets out on a mission into the mountains. If they can find gold, Columbus will at least have something to redeem himself with before the monarchs of Spain. Throughout his travels, Columbus has established trading relations with the Indians he meets. He exchanges worthless items such as broken terracotta and glass beads for gold and pearls. At first, the Guayami are happy to share their wealth, but Columbus misinterprets this hospitality as a sign that the Indians will be easy to subdue. He wants more than simple trade. Columbus wants to exploit their wealth, colonize their land, and convert them to Christianity. His brother Bartolome has been instructed to form a colony with 80 men. But as they press inland, Columbus's clerk Diego Mendez comes across a chilling warning. He spies Indians hidden in the jungle. They are preparing for war. On April 6th, when it looks as if the main fleet is leaving, they launch their assault. But although the Spanish may have technologically superior weaponry, their guns are slow to reload. The tropical conditions makes their gunpowder damp and difficult to fire. The Indians, however, are fast and agile. As well as the bow, they use a weapon much more suited to close combat. Overwhelmed, the survivors decide that escaping back to the ships is their only option. But they have a serious problem they can no longer ignore. All the ships are slowly sinking.
I sailed in the name of the Holy Trinity on Easter Monday, in ships that were rotten, leaky, and worm-eaten.
They are riddled with the notorious peril of warm tropical waters. Microscopic marine parasites are turning the hulls into a sieve. Columbus's ships, riddled with shipworm, eventually run aground in the sand of Jamaica. 20 of the original crew have died. His great challenge now is survival. But Columbus is in no fit state to command. Diego Mendez first joined the crew as a simple clerk. Now, he takes the lead. Based on the charts and calculations he made during the first 3 voyages, Columbus thinks he has a pretty good idea of where his crew are in relation to the Spanish colony at Santo Domingo on the island of Hispaniola. Calculating that Hispaniola lies about 100 miles away, Columbus asks Diego Mendez to canoe the last treacherous stretch to raise the alarm and bring a rescue ship. Mendez and his Indian crew are subjected to searing temperatures of 80 degrees Fahrenheit all day in an open boat. With no protection from the sun, one of the Indian paddlers dies from heat stroke and is thrown overboard.
During the last 2 days, we neither ate nor drank, since our stores were exhausted. Thanks be to our Lord God, after 5 days I reached the island of Hispaniola. Many natives came to us, bringing plenty of things to eat, and we remained there resting for 2 days.
It seems that Mendez has reached his goal. But now he faces his toughest task, persuading the governor of Hispaniola, one of Columbus's bitterest enemies, to send help all the way to Jamaica. 2 of Columbus's captains, the brothers Francisco and Diego de Porras, decide to sow the seeds of mutiny. They encourage other crew members to question Columbus's command. But faced with overburdened canoes and rough seas, the conspirators are unable to make the crossing to Jamaica. Twice they tried to canoe, twice they failed. The rebels hide away in the jungle and gradually destroy the friendly relations Diego Mendez so carefully nurtured with the Indians. Carrying an almanac with 30 years worth of lunar predictions, Columbus finds that just 3 days away, on February 29, 1504, there will be a lunar eclipse visible in Jamaica.
Bien, bien.
Columbus tells the islanders that his god is angry with them for refusing him food. The heavens are about to send a most terrible sign of the wrath of God.
Que oscurirá la luna.
He warns them that a huge shadow will fall across the moon. With a 13-month lunar calendar and superstitious mythology, the idea of the moon producing signs from God isn't hard for the Indians to believe. Columbus's son Fernando recorded what happened next.
The eclipse began at the rising of the moon and became greater as she ascended. The Indians took heed and were so frightened that with great howling and lamentation, they came from every direction laden with provisions, pleading that the admiral intercede to God on their behalf.
But all Columbus's genius has done is buy food and time. He still desperately needs to be rescued. Columbus has been lost to European civilization for over a year, shipwrecked on Jamaica. Diego Mendez rode to Hispaniola over 8 months ago, and still there is no sign of rescue. To make Columbus's situation worse, half his crew have mutinied and are hiding out in the jungle, armed to the teeth. Then, finally, Governor Ovando sends a ship to Jamaica, but it anchors offshore. Only the ship's captain reaches Columbus's camp.
Eso es todo.
He brings a joint of pork, some wine, and the governor's compliments. But astonishingly, no offer of rescue. This is the ultimate insult. Even though Columbus is facing certain death, Ovando is happy to mock him. But at least news from Diego Mendez that he is safe on Hispaniola and looking for a rescue ship gives Columbus faint hope. When Columbus sends a messenger to make peace with the mutineers, this only provokes them further. Only one thing will resolve the conflict between mutineers and loyalists: violence. With insufficient gunpowder, it will be decided by cold steel. The loyalists succeed in removing many mutineers from the field. Eventually, the only men still fighting are Bartolome and Francisco de Porras. Bartolome proves to be the stronger of the two and overwhelms Porras. But in this crucial moment, Bartolome decides to spare him. With their leader beaten, the mutiny is finally over. Just over a month later, rescue finally comes.
Aquí!
caravel sent by Mendez reaches Jamaica. Incredibly, after all their ordeals, 110 of the original 140 crew members have survived. Now, at last, they are going to Hispaniola. But because of strong winds, they will be forced to stop on the way. A journey which took Diego Mendez just 4 days in a canoe will take Columbus and his battered sailors a total of 45 days in a caravel. Unable to face a further lengthy voyage back to Spain, many of the sailors choose to remain forever on Hispaniola. Columbus spent the rest of his life trying to regain his rights to the New World, taken away by the monarchs of Spain. But nothing was restored. For Columbus, the fourth voyage was a disaster. He has failed to save his reputation or his fortune. At the age of 55, not 2 years after he returned from his final lost voyage, Columbus dies a broken man. His last words are a prayer to God.